I just wanted to tack on one more little part into this kind of proof video. The calculations that I'm going to be making in a lot of the upcoming videos, they're not perfect, okay? So the crit rate for a lot of them is going to be low. It's going to be pretty good for Xiao because he actually has some crit rate given to him. But what we're looking at in my videos are only the guaranteed stats. So I'm just going to compare everything, compare all of the weapons, so that you can kind of see how they stack up to each other with just the guaranteed stats and with different combinations of artifact main stats, because that's what we know we can get. The substats are kind of a completely different story, and that's just up to luck mostly. So I wanted to just talk about what we always want to remember if you're talking about like a damage dealer, what we want to aim for if we're trying to maximize our damage output. A lot of people say something along the lines of this. So 200% attack, 70% crit rate, and then 140% crit damage. So these are like, in my opinion, already very high numbers to be going for. Um, and it's very hard to even reach something like this. If you can reach something like this, your character's probably going to be doing pretty decent in the game. This post is made on Reddit by, I don't even know exactly by who. Here, Zaif. And basically, he's someone who knows more about math than I do. And he did a little calculation, basically, or maybe not little, pretty big calculation. And he found all of the ideal stats for all of these, for some of these characters and for each of their weapons. So basically, these are kind of really good, like maximum stats or ratios that you want to be kind of looking out for or aiming towards. So a lot of my calculations, where they're honestly going to land under 50% crit rate. Um, and so the damage isn't going to reflect basically some of them with a lot of crit damage as well as it should. So I'm going to link this in the description below, but you can have a look at this. A lot of these values are a little bit unrealistic to um, hit if you're pretty new. Basically, like I've been playing Genshin for, the past 3 months or something. I was like pretty, I started on the Venti banner, and I just want to show you. So most of my, if we just look quickly at my artifacts, let's just add this one back onto Klee. So my Klee's artifacts are the basically the best set I have, and then I've got a good set on Venti because I farmed both of the domains that drop this. Everyone else, except possibly kind of Bennett, have pretty bad artifacts. So I'm just gonna kind of show you, I just want to show you what I have, and it took me like, basically to get these artifacts, it took me 30 fragile resin. So you can convert that into days or original resin if you want. But it took me 30 fragile resin to do this because I wanted to do it pretty fast. And I finally hit AR 45. And that's when I was actually getting gold artifacts dropped. And so I thought it was worth it because I wasn't really wasting. Because I kind of think a gold artifact where I can guarantee the main stat to kind of maximize itself is much better than a purple artifact. But that's true and not true because the substats are very, very important. And if you do roll perfectly into a purple artifact, it'll be very, very good still. So I just want to kind of, let's start with the flower, but I just want to go through these. So I think these are my best ones. So I decided to go with the Lava Walker. I wanted to go with the Crimson Witch, but I had just better substats here. And it's honestly really good on Klee. It's probably even a little bit more consistently better on Klee, because with the Crimson Witch you have to do a lot of reactions um, in order to utilize it perfectly, although it could do a little bit more damage overall. But this one's very consistent, and so I like it for what it is. Basically here I've got crit rate 10%, crit damage 5%. So also when I rolled all of these, I only powered up the ones where I knew I already had crit rate and crit damage as substats. And basically sometimes it rolled into them, sometimes it didn't. I think this defense got rolled into a couple of times. But basically we've got that. Here we've got 15% crit damage, only 2.7% crit rate. So that's not great, but that's like a pretty really good crit damage substat in my opinion. Um, Here we've got crit damage 21.8% and 3.9% crit rate. So not a lot of crit rate, a lot of crit damage. That is honestly a lot of crit damage. Um, and you can see the main stat is attack percent for here, and these two are flat that you can't really change. Then on the cup, we've got a pyro damage bonus cup. This is basically my only one, and two good stats. So we've got crit rate and attack percent, and you can see it didn't really roll too much into these, maybe a little bit, but a lot of it went into defense here. But still, these substats are really good, and I didn't really have much of a choice here. I'm just lucky it honestly even had crit rate here. And then finally, I'm using a crit rate main stat headpiece with crit damage, and that's about it. The rest is kind of random stuff. The attack is nice to have, but at least it's got the crit damage. So I do have crit damage on every single rune basically as a substat. Um, and now I just want to show you basically. Um, and I also let's look at my weapon. So my weapon is the Widsith, and that's giving me 50% crit damage. This is only going to go to about 55% or something if I get it all the way to 90. So you can see that I'm only really at 150, maybe 55%. Like I'm pretty capped here on crit damage. So I just want to tell everyone to remember that even though these are the ideal ratios, right? Yes, if we could have 150 or 200% crit rate, and what 90, this is literally impossible. I think there's a soft cap on crit rate. These are also a little bit like you can get there. I think there's a soft cap around 80%, so this is like almost unrealistic. But this is very, very hard to get. You literally need to get crit damage on every single artifact as a substat, and then you need the crit rate also on as many of them as you can. But basically here my crit rate's only this. It's going to go a little bit higher because my artifact's not fully powered up, and I might get lucky and I might roll into, one or two more, so I might get 2 or 3% here or there. But with my video, I'd like to mostly focus on just what's guaranteed, but I just want to warn everyone that the numbers might look a lot different if you actually do have 50% crit rate and 150% crit damage. Those are so my numbers are not showing kind of in that sense if you're able to get those substats the best things. I would advise everyone to try and just do the damage calculation by yourself. It's not the hardest thing in the world, and you can find videos. I can maybe make a video, a quick one to do it easily, maybe a fast one just by reading off your kind of main stats. Because if you like check your artifacts, they already kind of break it down here. So it's a little bit easier to do, if that makes sense. And it should give like exactly what you're outputting. So you can like think about it like that and crunch a few numbers and think about potentially what what might be worth it if you're getting enough crit rate, crit damage. Because in my calculations, basically the weapons that have, no, sorry, the artifact combinations with a crit damage uh, artifact, like as a main stat, are going to be diminished a lot compared to the other ones if the crit rate is very low. But as soon as you get that crit rate higher, then those ones are kind of going to overtake everything else. So I don't want to give a lot of people the impression that, oh, crit damage is bad, because at the end of the day, crit damage is the best and crit rate is the best. It's just very hard to get those. And I just want to show which combinations will help you get towards there and how they kind of stack up. Now, I'm not saying pure attack is very bad because if you have insane numbers of attack because you cannot get enough crit rate and therefore crit damage, if you just forget about the crit rate and crit damage, you can get pretty far with attack. You can get probably 70 or 80% of, a crit damage build. But as you kind of get farther and farther into end game and you see these builds, your main DPS, you really want to be aiming for that. And so that's why like I really like the weapons that have crit damage or crit rate as a main substat. And that's why I also basically I'm getting ready for Xiao and not this one, but I'm gonna probably if I pull him, I hope I do. I might not even pull him, but basically I really kind of am betting my little bit of my money on the Black Cliff being able to give a really good performance because of this fat 50% crit damage that I don't need to look for in these random substats. Um, Xiao comes, or he's supposed to come with crit rate, and so with a crit rate ruin and his crit rate, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be that bad, or even just another crit damage ruin and just some crit rate substats. It should be pretty decent to, it shouldn't be too hard to get a pretty good Xiao running. Um, but this crit damage and crit rate for your damage dealer is extremely important, and I just want everyone to understand that. And so even if some of my calculations show that the crit damage, is underperforming here, then you have to realize that this case might be only considering 5% crit rate. And if we were considering 50% crit rate, that it would be much, much higher. I'll try and also probably do some considerations where I will artificially put substats in to the damage calculation and say if we did have good crit rate and crit damage substats, then this is how all of the weapons would stack up with each other. But we'll see. Yeah, I just wanted to make this little video. I guess I'll keep this one separate, but it's just kind of talking about the golden ratio. You can look through these. I'm just saying these are very hard to get if you don't literally have crit rate and crit damage and you need to roll into them kind of multiple times. This one's not so bad. Like 130% crit damage isn't too bad. Don't even look at these, in my opinion. Those are not gonna happen, basically ever. But these are, yeah, there's a soft cap. I think I'm like and then 200 like 68%. I don't know, man. I don't know. You can comment down below, and if someone has that, then I don't know. I don't know what they sacrificed to the devil in order to get such a stat, because I don't think it was worth it. Um, but yeah, like and subscribe. I'm gonna probably head out. See you in the next one.